You think you're kind. You think you're good. But somewhere inside you, without even knowing it, you might be lying to everyone around you. And the scariest part? They might actually believe the lie too. Today we're exploring something psychology has named the dark side of kindness. And if you've ever felt exhausted from helping others, this is for you. Before we go deeper, hit that subscribe button. This is Persona Pulse HQ, where we explore the hidden patterns of human psychology. If you're interested in understanding yourself and others on a deeper level, this channel is built for you. Like this video and comment below, what does kindness actually mean to you? I genuinely want to read your answers. What if I told you that some of the kindest people you know are actually trapped in a cycle they do and understand? What if the person who never says no, who drops everything to help you, isn't generous at all, but frightened? This is the paradox psychology has been quietly uncovering for decades. It's called pathological altruism. Not all altruism is good. Not all kindness is kind. Let me tell you why that matters. We live in a world that worships kindness. We celebrate the selfless person. We honor the helper. We build our heroes on the foundation of people who sacrifice. And they do. They sacrifice endlessly. But what we rarely ask is, at what cost? And more importantly, for what reason? There's a difference between genuine kindness and what looks like kindness from the outside. One is a choice. The other is a compulsion. Think about someone you know who helps everyone. Maybe they're a family member. Maybe they're a friend. Maybe it's you. This person is the first one you call when you need something. They show up. They care. And yet, there's something beneath the surface. A tension, a resentment that flickers in and out of view. A subtle anger when their help isn't acknowledged. A feeling of being invisible, used, unappreciated. What's happening here isn't kindness breaking down. It's a different pattern revealing itself. Psychology calls this person a people pleaser. But that clinical term misses something deeper. The people pleaser isn't actually oriented toward you. They're oriented toward themselves, toward earning your approval, your validation, your acknowledgement that they matter. And that's where the darkness begins. Carl Jung wrote extensively about archetypes, universal patterns of human behavior wired into our collective consciousness. One of the most important is what he called the caregiver. The caregiver is pure compassion, generosity, the impulse to nurture and protect. On the surface, it's beautiful. But Jung understood something crucial. Every archetype has a shadow. The shadow caregiver isn't gentle at all. It's a martyr. It's someone who gives compulsively, who measures their worth by how much they sacrifice, who unconsciously, or sometimes consciously, uses their kindness as a tool to maintain control. The shadow caregiver helps, not because they want to, but because they have to. Because saying no feels like abandonment. Because if they stop giving, they disappear. This is pathological altruism. And it's everywhere. Here's the psychological truth that changes everything. Motivation determines whether an act is kind or controlling. Genuine kindness flows from a place of fullness. You have something, time, energy, resources, compassion, and you choose to offer it. You can give or not give. Both feel acceptable to you. The act comes from abundance, not scarcity. Pathological altruism comes from fear. You're afraid of being seen as selfish. You're afraid of abandonment. You're afraid of not matching. You're afraid of the person's reaction if you say no. So you say yes, and you keep saying yes, and you tell yourself it's kindness. But here's what happens underneath. Resentment builds. You're not choosing to help. You're compelled to help. And the person you're helping, they can feel the difference, even if they don't have words for it. Because there's no joy in your giving. There's obligation. There's a silent contract. I'm giving you this so you'll give me something back. I'm giving you this so you'll love me. And when that love, that gratitude, that validation doesn't come, or doesn't come in the form you expected, you feel cheated. Let me give you a real example, because this lives in specifics. Imagine a woman named Sarah. She's the helper in her family. When her mother is sick, Sarah moves into her parents' house. She manages appointments, medications, and meals. She sets aside her own life. She tells herself and everyone else that it's love. But underneath, Sarah is keeping a careful account. Every sacrifice is noticed. Every moment away from her own family counts. When her siblings don't call enough, don't visit enough, don't acknowledge her effort, something shifts in her. She becomes critical. She points out their absence. She makes comments about how some people care more than others. Is Sarah's love real? Of course, but it's entangled with something else. Control, guilt, the unspoken demand. See how much I'm doing? Now you owe me. Her mother doesn't experience comfort. She experiences a burden. She feels the invisible obligation pressing down. And the relationship, which should be deepening, begins to fracture under the weight of Sarah's kindness. This is the dark side, not in the grand gestures, in the quiet transaction. Psychologists discovered something startling. People who struggle with pathological altruism often have a deeply fragile sense of self-worth. Unlike genuine caregivers, who feel complete and offer from that completeness, pathological altruists are unconsciously trying to prove they're worthy. They're trying to earn love. They're trying to become indispensable so they can't be left behind. It's usually rooted in childhood. Maybe you had a parent who withdrew affection unless you earned it through obedience or achievement. Maybe you had a parent who was emotionally unavailable, and you learned that the only way to connect was through service. Maybe you experienced abandonment, and now, decades later, you're still trying to fill that void by being needed. The pattern becomes automatic. You don't think about it anymore. You just know that your value comes from what you do for others. And the cost? It's staggering. Burnout isn't just exhaustion. It's the moment when your system finally breaks under the weight of giving from an empty tank. People with pathological altruism experience chronic fatigue, depression, and a creeping sense of resentment they can't justify. They're depressed because they're depleted. They're resentful because they never actually chose this. They're numb because they've been ignoring their own needs so long, they barely remember having them. And here's the cruel irony. The people they helping often don't benefit as much as they think. When someone helps you from a place of compulsion, you sense something is off. You feel the expectation. You feel the invisible debt accumulating. Instead of feeling supported, you feel burdened. Instead of feeling loved, you feel obligated. Researchers studying pathological altruism found something striking. People pleasers are actually more likely to be in exploitative relationships, not because they're choosing bad partners, but because the dynamic feeds both people's pathology. The people pleaser gets to feel needed. The taker gets someone who can't say no. It's a dance that looks loving from the outside, but is actually quite toxic. Let me tell you about the nervous system, because this is where it gets really interesting. There's a researcher named Bessel van der Kolk who studies trauma and how it lives in our bodies. She discovered that people who experience neglect or conditional love in childhood develop a nervous system that learns something. Safety comes from disappearing. When you were young and your parents only noticed you when you were useful, when you were good, helpful, compliant, your nervous system learned to hide your needs. It learned that having wants made you a burden. It learned that love was something you had to earn, never something freely given. So as an adult, you're operating from a nervous system stuck in that survival mode. You automatically suppress your own needs. You automatically scan for what others want. You automatically say yes. You're not choosing. Your body is protecting you the only way it learned how. But here's what's fascinating about human psychology. We have the capacity to change this. The first step is awareness. You have to see the pattern clearly, not as kindness, but as compulsion. You have to notice when you're saying yes because you want to, versus when you're saying yes because you can't bear the anxiety of saying no. Real kindness feels different. It feels light. It feels like a choice. After genuine kindness, you feel more alive, not depleted. If you're giving and feeling resentful, exhausted, or invisible, that's not kindness. That's a transaction you didn't explicitly agree to, and someone else is paying the price. The second step is learning to say no. This sounds simple. It's not. For people with pathological altruism, saying no feels like choosing cruelty. It feels selfish. It feels like abandonment. But here's the psychological truth. Your no protects both you and the other person. When you protect your own boundaries, you create the conditions for genuine care. You give from fullness, not depletion. You show the other person that they don't need to fear your disapproval if they also say no. You model healthy limits. And counterintuitively, this is what real love looks like. Not martyrdom, not endless sacrifice, but the ability to care for yourself and others at the same time. There's a concept in psychology called the wounded healer. Carl Jung wrote about it. The idea is that we can only truly help others from wounds we've actually healed in ourselves. But here's the twist. If you're still bleeding from your wounds, you can't heal anyone. You can only transfer your pain. The pathological altruist is usually operating from unhealed wounds. They're trying to give to others what they never received themselves. They're trying to heal the inner child who learned that love was conditional. But you can't love that child back to wholeness through external achievement. You can't earn your own worthiness by sacrificing for others. That child needs to hear something different. Your value isn't in what you do. Your value is intrinsic. You're worthy because you exist. I want to be clear about something. Genuine kindness is real and beautiful. The world needs people who care, who give, who serve. But we need something different from what pathological altruism offers. We need people who are kind from a place of wholeness, not from brokenness. People who can give and receive. People who have boundaries. People who understand that self-care isn't selfish. It's the foundation of authentic generosity. This requires something harder than endless sacrifice. It requires honesty about your own needs. It requires the courage to disappoint people sometimes. It requires the willingness to be imperfect. Here's what changes when you understand this. You start to see people differently. That friend who's always helping, always available, always thinking of others. You notice the weariness underneath. You sense the fear. And instead of taking, you start to offer something different. You offer acceptance. You let them know it's okay to say no to you. You notice the partners and family members who've gotten comfortable talking without reciprocating. You realize they're not actually being helped. They're being trained. They're learning that they don't have to show up because there's always someone who will do it for them. And you start to see yourself more clearly too. If you recognize yourself in this pattern, and honestly, most of us do, to some degree, there's something important to know. This isn't your fault. The nervous system doesn't choose its own wiring. The child doesn't choose its environment. But the adult can choose awareness. The adult can choose to change. It starts with self-compassion, not the harsh realization that you've been pathologically altruistic, but the gentle acknowledgement that your system learned to survive in a way that made sense at the time. That adaptation protected you. And now, you get to choose something different. It looks like this. You notice when you're about to say yes out of fear. You pause. You feel the anxiety. And you say no anyway. The first time, it feels like the end of the world. The second time, it feels a little easier. By the 10th time, you realize something. The person still likes you. The world didn't collapse. You didn't disappear. You became more visible, not less. Because people sense authenticity. They sense choice. They sense whether you're truly present or whether you're there out of obligation. And they respond to that. Real connection happens between people who choose each other, not people bound by invisible debt. This is where your personal psychology intersects with culture. We live in a world that celebrates the martyr. We celebrate the person who gives everything. We shame the person who has boundaries. We call self-care selfish and self-sacrifice noble. But what if we got that backwards? What if protecting your own well-being is the most generous thing you can do? What if the person who takes care of themselves is actually more capable of authentic kindness? This isn't a small shift. It's a revolution in how we think about goodness. I want you to sit with something as we wrap up. Where in your life are you saying yes when you want to say no? Not the big things, The small moments, the extra task at work, the phone call you don't have time for, the favor you already know will deplete you, the invisible agreement you never actually made. Notice it. Don't judge it. Just see it. Because seeing it is the beginning of change. The dark side of kindness isn't cruelty. It's the mechanism by which good people hurt themselves and others. It's the way we weaponize caring. It's the way we try to buy love with sacrifice. But there's another way. One where your goodness doesn't cost you yourself. Where your care doesn't come from fear. Where your yes means something because your no is also allowed. That's the kind of kindness the world actually needs. If you want to continue this exploration of human psychology, of the patterns that drive us, the fears that control us, the possibilities for genuine change, subscribe to Persona Pulse HQ. New videos every week. Real psychology, not textbook answers. And leave a comment. What's one boundary you've been too afraid to set? I read every comment, and your answer might help someone else see themselves. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking this journey into the shadows. Because only in the shadow do we find the light.